All right, all right, all right. Greetings from the Dark Continent. Conscious Caracal here. Welcome to 2021. Well, I think firstly, what a lot of us saw from the happenings so far is that 2021 is definitely not going to be a dull year if you base your speculation on what's already happened and what it's set up. And that's what we're going to try and get some analysis on tonight when we look a bit to the future, but also to the past in regards to what happened and what you might expect to come from the developments that have already saturated our news feeds and almost every news aggregator that you might be using. So interesting times indeed. When I think about 2021 so far, I can sum it up as pretty much the global empire strikes back. I think what has been revealed is definitely the power of the forces that we are up against. This isn't some uh, easy little game where everything is fair and everything uh, the good guys always win. It's a dirty game because we live in a fallen world. We are, as human beings, fallen beings. So of course there's immense evil out there, immense malice, immense unfairness and injustice. And that leads a lot of people to ask the question of how do you deal with this? What's the way forward when confronted with a lot of these sometimes unpleasant truths and just the reality that you have to deal with. So firstly, I think something that we all need to consider when looking at 2021 is that 2020 was pretty much the prelude for what's to come. I think 2020 was the year where all the little pieces, all the pieces on the global chessboard really started moving. And 2021, I've been talking about, or I've used the term paradigm shift quite a bit. So, a paradigm shift in layman's terms is pretty much when the global or the order of things is changed, when a new method, for example, in science is widely spread, or when a new hierarchy is introduced. So, it's many forms that it can take. And I think in 2021, and so far from what we've seen, a lot of people have become aware that there are some very big corporate enemies as well that don't really want you disturbing their plans. And they definitely have a vision. It's not like they are devoid of ideology or devoid of any type of grand scheme. I think it's become pretty clear what the future holds in regards to corporate power. And I think the best way to sum it up is what we saw happen this week or last week over the weekend with President Donald Trump being removed from Twitter, his account being suspended. And when that happens, you have to ask yourself a very simple question. If the king can be silenced, is he really in charge? And then you also have to ask the natural second question would be, if the king can be silenced by someone, who is that someone? Who is really in charge and who's really pulling the strings? So tonight's stream is not only going to be about the US, it's also going to be about South Africa in general. Seeing as in South Africa, I think it's also going to be a big year, specifically for AfriForum as well. We're going to be continuing a lot of the campaigns that we started in 2020 are running over into 2021. So I will definitely be keeping you guys up to date on my Twitter in regards to that. I'll also be using my YouTube platform to inform you in regards to what's going on there. So let's just see who's in the chat already before we continue. I see Carl Green, Zeta is here. Welcome, welcome. Paula is here. Goeienaand. Russell is here. He says it's all about Agenda 2030. Now that's something that is definitely has definitely been a point of conversation. And Moderate here says, "Are you talking about the Great Reset?" Well, that's one of the things that you can call it. The Great Reset seems, if you look at, for example, it's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, this is what these types of organizations that are pushing it are literally calling it. And a brief summation of what it is pretty much, from what I can see, the biggest planned transfer of wealth, but not from the top down, but from the bottom up. Pretty much the elimination of the working class, or in their own words, the World Economic Forum's own words, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Sounds like an ideology that a lot of us are acquainted with. I see more people are joining in here now. I see Hendo is here. Nice to see you. JL is here. Hey, man. Corqueto is here. What's up, man? Definitely going to have a chat with you on the channel later this year. I see Sharon is here as well. So maybe let's start off with a word. So after 2016, the word of the day was fascist. Everyone after 2015, 2016 were scrambling. I mean, I'm talking about the political analysts, journalists, pretty much the commentariat. After 2016, we're scrambling to buy dictionaries to figure out what a fascist is. I think before 2015, if you asked any of them to define a fascist, they would not be able to tell you. But that became the big word of the year in 2016, and from there onwards, it was pretty much lodged in the populist lexicon. There's a new word that's come to the fore now, though, in 2021, and that word is coup. Now, this is based on what happened in Capitol Hill last week, and a very interesting development, but definitely not a coup. Anyone, and I mean, you don't have to have done a course in political science to have looked at what coups look like and what they entail. And from what I see, the majority of these political analysts, these mainstream political analysts that earn massive salaries for their valuable analysis, don't seem to have actually bothered to look at real cases of coups in the past or in history. Because if they did, they would know that this was not a coup attempt. If you call what happened at Capitol Hill attempted coup, it seems that your understanding of what a coup is pretty much like a game of capture the flag. They think that's pretty much what a coup is. It's just you have to get to the center of Capitol Hill, and there's like a little flag there that people have to capture. And when you get that, Trump wins, and it's all over. And you can't have a transition of power. That seems what they think a coup, how it works. I see Mulpit is here. Hello, Vianant. Safas is here from Hermanus. Oh man, I'm sorry that you guys over December couldn't go to the beaches, man, but hopefully sometime soon, because I feel for all these small businesses that are suffering due to these completely irrational regulations that seem to change like a windsock. And back to the the coup thing. So if you see anyone using that word, I mean, it's not a word that you just should use lightly. It's very serious business. I mean, coup is serious stuff. So if you see anyone use that word when they're analyzing what happened in the US last week, challenge them to tell you what a coup is and why this was a coup. I can guarantee you that 9 out of 10 of those people will be standing there with a mouthful of teeth and will not be able to tell you. I see here we have an American in the chat, DeFredo Watcher, one of the long-time subscribers, says hello from America. 7 days of freedom left. Yeah, it's sad business, and I'm going to have to be brutally honest with you here. I don't think the hard times are over. I think the difficult and complicated times are only beginning. Because what's happened here is that when you're looking at the situation on the 20th of January, we are heading for a situation where it is almost now 100% guaranteed that on the 20th of January, Joe Biden will be inaugurated. Before that, the situation was, well, what is certain on the 20th of January, one half of the electorate is going to suffer immense social alienation. Now, it's pretty much certain that Joe Biden is going to be coronated. And that means that the half of the electorate that's going to suffer massive social alienation is going to be Trump supporters. That's not a good thing. That's a very bad thing. Social alienation means a drop in societal trust, and you can just ask any South African what a drop in or what a low trust society looks like. Low trust society means you can't trust your neighbors. You can't trust the guy at the shop down the street. Low trust society means anyone can be an enemy. Anyone can be a villain. Anyone could be a criminal almost. And that's the type of mentality that you get in countries where you get these types of crises. And one of the crises in South Africa, obviously, is the fact that we have a crime epidemic that the government just is woefully mismanaging and can't really bring to a heed. So anyway, back to the situation in the US. I see some rough times ahead. I'm not going to go full Tim Pool and say it's a civil war that's on the horizon, but there's going to be a lot of social stress. A lot of relationships are going to be strained. If you thought relationships, and I'm not talking about just romantic relationships, I'm talking about relationships between friends, between family members, between romantic partners. If you thought those types of relationships were strained in the Trump era, just wait for the post-Trump era. I foresee a lot of social alienation. I mean, you saw, you got a taste of it in January at the Capitol building, or afterwards. You saw posts online, viral posts of people reporting their family members, longtime friends, people they know, their neighbors, to the FBI because they knew their neighbors and their friends and family or whatever, whoever they reported, was in attendance in DC. And this doesn't even, and a lot of them even said in their posts, they don't think the person that they're reporting even stormed the Capitol building. They just attended the rally in DC, but they reported them anyway. That's the situation that you are currently sitting with, and that is unfortunately the a symptom of a low trust society, or a low trust society in the making. And me as a South African living in a low trust society, I can tell you it's not a nice place to be. It creates a lot of problems. So I've been neglecting the chat, so I'm just going to check here if there's anything going on. If you guys have any questions or any topics that you want to discuss, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll see if I can fit them in. There's a lot of stuff that I do plan to talk about, so we're going to get to that very soon. So yeah, that's what I see in the future for America. Definitely a problem there. Now, moving the focus back to South Africa, 2021 is also going to be a big year for the ANC or all the political parties, seeing as it is an election year. But it's the municipal elections, and we'll see what happens there. But I am not in the same boat as the analysts that are saying the ANC is on the brink of being wiped out. Not wiped out, but losing power or letting their grip on power slip. All I'm seeing here is the potential for an alliance between the ANC and the EFF, or the EFF is just the rebranding of the ANC Youth League. The ANC just seem to use the EFF to experiment with ideas that that are a little bit outside the Overton window, where they are not in a position to test the waters with these types of ideas. So it seems that the EFF are their windsock. A good example would be EWC. And yeah, but other than that, there's also the big Twitter purge. So excuse me, I hope it's not the Rona. There's also the big Twitter purge that happened. Not only did Donald Trump lose his Twitter account, but there was also a massive purge of majority conservative accounts, it seems. Can't 100% confirm, but I mean, you can use your common sense. I think over 70,000 accounts were purged just since last week, or since last weekend, and I lost 600 followers in that time. A lot of other people as well. A funny take for me, and this was before this massive purge. There was like a little mini purge before that, and it was in the wake of the Capitol building stuff. And something I found funny was a lot of people that are in conservative and more classical liberal circles that criticized or condemned and disavowed the Capitol building. The people that stormed the Capitol building made the exact same identical tweet. So the tweet went something like this. They said, wow, I just lost X amount of followers. This must be because I stuck by my principles and disavowed these people that attacked the Capitol building. People must definitely not like the truth. That's probably why I lost those followers, was the implication. And this was not the case. It was the little mini Twitter purge that happened just before that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, the future that is forming here, the future of social media. We are heading into, and this is still potential. It hasn't manifested yet, but we're heading into uncharted waters where the two sides of the ideological divide very roughly. I mean, I don't use the political spectrum a lot as a reference, but it helps as a tool, an analytical tool. We're heading into uncharted waters where the social media sites are increasingly splitting. So you're going to have a conservative sphere and a right-wing, or conservative/right-wing sphere, and a liberal/leftist sphere. And it's increasingly happening. And the interesting thing that's going to come from this is what the effect of that is going to be on national narratives, on elections, on discourse. It's going to be very fascinating. I'm going to be watching it very keenly. But at the same time, it doesn't seem like the conservative/right-leaning alternative media is really getting off the ground, seeing as that all these corporations are pretty much just rallying against them. And then you see the example of Parler that was pretty much just nuked off the face of the internet. I don't think we're going to see anything from Parler anytime soon. So we're definitely seeing this happen, but I don't see any alternative to Twitter really, or Facebook, or any of these social media giants really becoming massive anytime soon. I mean, Gab is really trying. They at least have their own servers, so they can't be nuked. But I still believe that the fight is on a large portion of the fight is on conventional social media, because that's where the normies are. That's where the independents are. You're not gonna. If you have your own social media site, it's going to be good for organizing. It's going to be good for organizing rallies, organizing during an election, discussing ideas within your sphere. But it's going to be very difficult to get new people to join your side or to join your sphere, which was very easy, as we all know, in the previous incarnation of the internet pre-2016, before the social media giants really realized that they were asleep at the wheel, and that caused Trump to happen. And that's why we saw this big ramping up of censorship in the lead up to the 2020 elections. And yeah, that's the interesting thing that's going to happen. But I still think that there's still a very big fight on conventional social media. I think that because, like I said, that's where the normies are. That's where a lot of the people are that you can still get to consider your ideas and to bolster your numbers, because you can't just preach to the choir. That's not really going to solve a lot. That's the big issue that I'm seeing here. I see. One second. I just saw a message here from Russell. Russell says one side does not know how to play dirty. How pathetic. That's also a thing I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Let's see here. Koketso says, me with just 1,700 followers have been vocal, but under the radar for a long time. Seems like Twitter algorithm ignores you if you're under 5,000. That could be. I don't know enough about the situation. So regarding that first message from Russell, when we talk about the matter of principles, let me just get something here. So when it comes to principles, there's this big argument and debate around. But the other side are playing dirty. They're cheating, or they're using the rhetoric or battle of ideas equivalent of WMDs. How do we counter that? And a lot of people would argue, well, we use the same weapons as they do. and we become just as unprincipled as they do, and we adopt their strategies, almost like let me see here. Pretty much, we adopt the strategies of Rules for Radicals by Solinsky, the father of activism and social and organizing for the left. But the problem with that is what I see coming is, okay, what are you fighting for, and why do you fight in the battle of ideas and the battle of cultures? You fight because you think you have something to preserve. You fight because you think that your core values and your core principles are worth preserving. You think they trump other collections of principles. For example, in a culture war, you would say your culture, you fight to preserve your culture's core values and principles because they are dear to you and are valuable. And for a good example would be religion as well. Christians fight for the core values and the core principles of Christianity. They fight because of those core principles and the core ideas within Christianity. But when you take that line of we need to become like our enemies in order to win, you might win, but you're going to end up on the other side when you cross that finish line, and you're just going to be a monster. You're just going to be a shell, a soulless shell. It's like that, the Bible verse, Matthew 16:26, of what will it profit a man if he gains the entire world but loses his soul? And I think that's what we need to keep in mind when we have these types of debates about strategy and tactics, is what will we lose if we adopt some of these tactics that our opponents, for example, use. I myself am not willing to adopt a large portion of their tactics, because that would entail selling out my core principles. And then you run into that paradox of you are fighting to preserve your core principles and values, but you are willing to give up those core principles and values in order to win. Then how much were those core principles and values really worth? A good analogy would be, or a hypothetical situation would be, let's say you have two, you're fighting one opponent, the blue team, and your team, there's a red team, a green team, and a blue team. Just 1 second, I see my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. So let's say you have three teams. You have a green team, a red team, and a blue team. Blue team is currently the big power, the big hegemon, and you want to defeat the blue team, and you're the red team, and there's a green team. But the green team are atheists, and the blue team are Christians. If you and the green team up, you will have a numerical advantage. You will be able to beat. If the red team and the green team up, they will be able to beat the establishment blue team. But the only way to do that is to give up your religion so that the green team will actually join you. Do you really think that's a good deal? You'll win, but you'll lose the core thing that you were fighting for and your core principles and values. You've just pretty much become a shell. So I don't think this is how you win. You win. It's equally as important, if not more, how you win, not just winning. Because we are fighting for something very specific. You're fighting for principles and values that you deem valuable. But if they are not, if you're willing to give them up in order to win, then you have to ask yourself why, how much value did they have in the first place? I see here a former guest on the show, Treasure. Hello, Treasure. Thank you for tuning in. He was my guest on my culture series when we were talking about Chonga culture. Very interesting episode. You can find it on my channel. Treasure says, the truth always prevails. Solzhenitsyn talks about how the truth can bring down a tyranny. And this is evident in what the Gulag Archipelago did to the Soviet Union. We must remain principled. That's where I agree in regards to you must fight for truth. You mustn't fight to win. You must fight because you know you're right and you are fighting for the right reasons and for the right cause. Um, it's not just about winning. It's about preserving what is important. And as MP van Wyk Lowe said, it's about carrying the treasure of your culture through the rioting crowd. That's what's important, not just getting to the other side. Well, this is a very, very good point. Pretty much what I was saying. The Freighter Watcher says, I can't embrace evil to succeed. All victories are hollow, and eventually so will be your soul. Exactly. Um, what will it gain a man? What will it profit a man if he gains the entire world but loses his soul? Let's see. Russell says, true story, Ernst, but hell's bells, man, why don't we resist? That's what I mean by dirty. We're just accepting this. Oh, right, no, of course. Dirty in the sense of getting down and dirty, getting your hands dirty and getting to work. Um, Two situations. It depends on whether your question is regarding South Africa or the US. In the US, the reason people aren't really resisting this in mass is two main reasons. First reason is pretty obvious, this tyranny of pretty much being cancelled, where this fear of if you have any form of wrong think, if you go against this global agenda, you will lose your income. You will be put out on the street. You will be put on a no-fly list. The list gets more severe by the year of what could happen to you. Now, it's easy to say when you, for example, work for yourself and you still have an income. It's easy to say, well, is your income really more important than the cause? Well, when you have a family and you have a wife and children to support, you think differently. Then you're not going to jeopardize your only source of income, even if you know you're right. And I can understand completely people that are in that situation. That's why a lot of people don't stand up. Second reason in the US why people don't really actively resist a lot of this is the fact that it hasn't affected them yet. It's still something far away. There's actually three reasons. I'll get to the third reason now. Second reason, yeah, it hasn't affected them yet. It is affecting them, but on a very subtle level, where they will only see the consequences of that effect later down the line. So that's definitely one of the other reasons. The third reason, well, maybe just to add to that second reason, people don't see. It's not like these types of attacks all have very immediate consequences. The tearing down of Western civilization and all its foundations is not going to send a country into chaos tomorrow. It's something that happens over a very long time, and you have to think abstractly in a lot of situations to really see what's going to happen, or what's going to be caused by it down the line. These are things that are very long term a lot of the times. And then the third reason why we're not seeing any real big resistance to this is the fact that a lot of people still just consume the propaganda machine, whatever the propaganda machine spews out. I think that's one of the things in America that's very impressive in a very dark way, is the power of their propaganda machine. I mean, just look at Hollywood. People still consume those types of films and series. People still watch series, even though every series almost in perfect, like clockwork, degenerates into like this leftist agenda, a globalist agenda, talking points, and politics in like the second season, third season, final season. Very few of these types of television series really make it to the end without being tainted. But people still watch them. People still tune in a very masochistic fashion. I see Chris Wyatt is in the chat. Goeienaand, Chris. You will definitely be a guest on my show this year. We need to talk about what's happening there in the US. I didn't move to Russia. I just went to the beach for the holiday. But then when the First half of the holiday, I could go to the beach, and then when the beaches were closed, we just went into the mountain and hiked there, and that was very nice. You got to get that. Got to get that nature. Got to get out there. I see Marubani has a very simple solution. He says, "Oh wait, no, there's another one that I wanted to put up before that one." He says, "Just say no." It is that simple. If you are capable of saying no, there are many people that, if they were to be cancelled, would die. They would not have a source of income. If they were unpersoned and they didn't have a support network or a community, they would either become homeless or they would pretty much just disappear. So yeah, but that is the general gist of it. Is where you can afford to say no. Marubani says slaves don't rebel much, historically speaking. Yeah, of course. That's why they were unfortunately in the situation that they were. That's how the system is designed. that's pretty much how you get all these cases. Is that fact? Brendan says I love The Mandalorian. I've heard there isn't too much politics in it. The funny thing, my favorite, I haven't watched it. I don't watch series anymore. For the reasons stated before. I don't remember when I don't really watch television anymore. I do watch sports ball, even though I shouldn't. We all have our vices. So I hear from a lot of people The Mandalorian hasn't been tainted with politics too much. But there's my favorite meme from that I saw related to the show was, so the first panel is what Disney thought women wanted to see in their Star Wars, and it's like all these empowered female characters. What women actually wanted to see. The second panel is just Space Baby, and it's Baby Yoda. That's true. I'm not going to get into that. Otherwise, my entire channel, this entire stream is just going to turn into a discussion on the Disney Dominion. Paul says, did you guys see the 20 January Trump DC protest video today? No, I didn't. I heard there was a video. Didn't see it. I'll check it out after the show. Russell says, it's like globalism is its own language. Globalism has its own language. What's that language that George Soros talks or speaks? Esperanto. It's like this amalgamation of all these European languages. It's very strange stuff. That's the other thing, is that this isn't all just technocratic, sterile technocracy stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff in the background as well, a lot of esoteric stuff. Now you can go into the opposite, more like Alex Jones' side, and think it's all esoteric, and that's unfortunate. That's not the case. Even though the world would make a lot more sense if we were just fighting interdimensional DMT elves. But yeah, it's a lot of these globalist types are strange people. They're not normal. They're not like you and me. You wouldn't encounter them in a bar. They're archetype. They're like an archetype on their own. I'm going to read Carl Jung's book Archetypes this year. I'm going to try and read more this year. I'm going to have a lot more time in regards to that, seeing as I had academic responsibilities last year. So yeah, maybe I'll do a video series on the archetypes and what Carl Jung wrote about that. JL says, America must learn from SA. Well, truer words have never been spoken. I keep telling a lot of the Americans that have me on their show, I want to talk about what's happening in South Africa. I tell them, well, better late than never, but you guys should have started paying attention a long time ago. There's that saying in America that California is always ahead of the curve. Or California is like, I don't know how many years before ahead of the other states when it comes to this type of progressive ideology and policies. Well, I'll take it one further. South Africa is even more, like a few decades ahead of California. So if you want to see what California policy-wise is going to look, and socially-wise is going to look like 50 years down the line. Check what's going on in South Africa, or even less now of the internet and the speed that information is being spread. Have a look at South Africa, you guys. A good example was this week, where it came out that the Biden administration will be discriminating based on race when it comes to COVID relief funds to small businesses. And I remarked to that, I said, they must have been very impressed with South Africa's policies in regarding that. The South African government were the pioneers of discriminating based on race when it comes to COVID relief funds to small businesses. So check that out. Keep an eye on South Africa, guys. That's what I keep saying. Indo says 11 more likes. I've not been looking at the likes. Oh yeah, we're almost at 50. Well done, guys. Let me just get the chat on here. Right. Hi, Dave. Hardy Dave says Jung, thumbs up. Yes. A very large portion of my bookshelf is Carl Jung, one of my favorite people to read. Very interesting and fun to read as well, not too dense and pretentious. Treasure asks, what are your predictions on the Biden administration? Okay. My prediction is the administration itself is going to be incredibly boring. There's not going to be any interesting tweets like you've been luxuriously treated with in terms of Trump. You've been spoiled with Trump's Twitter. Biden's Twitter and social media is just going to be rehashed Obama talking points, very boring, very sterile, very neoliberal. It's not going to be interesting at all. On the other side, where it's going to be interesting, it's not the administration itself, but the society's reaction to the policies and the society's reaction to the news and what's happening. That's going to be very interesting. Like I said, post-Trump America is an America that's going to be characterized by immense social alienation and a lot of social stress and a massive dip in societal trust. That's not a good thing. The Freighter Watcher says, at Chris Wyatt, hi there, crabby bearded one. Good to see you in chat. Agreed too much. What? I don't know what that word is. My English second language is failing me. Yeah, so that's my prediction for America and under the Biden administration. Yeah, you guys, we were really spoiled with Trump's Twitter, but maybe the real victory were the tweets we saw along the way. Something else that's a more long-term prediction for 2024, but maybe not even 2024, maybe even after that. My prediction has been, well, I predicted that Biden would win by hook or by crook. And my prediction there was, if Biden wins, you are going to see the emergence of a true right-wing populist in America. That's going to make Trump look like a Democrat sweetheart. That's the way things are going. And most likely, as we speak, somewhere out there is a young future populist right leader in the US sitting, and he's looking at what he's seeing or what he saw happen in Capitol Hill, and seeing what's happening around him, and seeing what the media are saying, and seeing just the absolute absurdity of the clown country that his country is being turned into, and he is seething. Interesting enough, so over the weekend, me and my girlfriend were in Majuba's Kloof, Tito Mbaweni's world, part of the world. Didn't see him there though. And I learned something interesting. And so we witnessed a butterfly migration. These white butterflies were migrating to Mozambique. So they're flying through Mpumalanga. And the entire air is filled with these white butterflies. And they're everywhere. And I saw there were some other butterflies flying with them, like little orange ones and a blue one and some yellow ones. I found that strange. Like, I know one species will migrate, but why are these there? And I went to Google it, and it's actually a phenomenon where, so these white butterflies are migrating to Mozambique. And because there's so many of them, because there's a critical mass of them, other butterfly species in the area or that see them start flying in the same direction as them because of the social pressure, because of the sense of urgency and the mass hysteria created by this butterfly migration. So I found that absolutely fascinating that even butterflies can fall victim to mass hysteria. Let's see. Just checking in the chat if there's anything here. Remember, if you guys have a question or a topic you want me to discuss, just let me know. I'm going to go for another 20 minutes, and then I'm just going to say goodbye for tonight. Marty says the USA is becoming the Weimar Republic. Not quite. You're missing a key ingredient, and that's pretty much the devastating economic depression. Which, well, if Beijing Biden gets in, which he seems 100% that he will, and he instates a 3-month lockdown like he said he wants to, you're well on your way to a depression. But we'll see. The economic element's not there yet. So I wouldn't use that comparison too lightly, or use it just at the moment. What of Russia? Where does she sit in the geopolitical stage? Russia is strange. Russia seems to be still licking its wounds after the Soviet Union, pretty much trying to recover its devastated society and culture. You can see this in the bringing back of Orthodox churches in Russia by the hundreds. They're popping up everywhere because under the Soviet Union they were pretty much persecuted. So that's very interesting. Russia seems to be in the middle of a very long-term cultural rebuilding project. But we'll see what happens there. I don't think Russia is going to be one of the main talking points this year. They're going to be there. They're going to be a big player, but not to the extent that they were in 2017 after Trump won. Groen Hondkat says the normies got to look at what's behind the curtain. Oh yes, from just what I've seen some normies talk about, their almonds are activated. Don't you worry about that. They're looking at what's happening and they're pretty much getting worried. A lot of people are getting red pilled. Let's see. Here's a question. Carl Green asks, Conscious Caracal, in 1994, when ANC took power, why did they not introduce their language into schools? Which other languages? Oh, yeah. So South Africa has 11 official languages, and the ANC had 2 options. Afrikaans had already been established as an academic language that can be used at even high-level, university level. A massive achievement for the language, for one of the world's youngest languages. So yeah, it is possible. But the ANC had they had 2 options in 1994. Either help the other languages of the country also develop to that point. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes decades and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of dedicated individuals, as the story of Afrikaans will tell you, but it's doable. It's very doable, especially if you look at how Afrikaans is just barely 100 years old. They took the second option. They took the second option of anglicizing, of pretty much just going, English is the language of the world. It's the business language. It's the global language. We want to anglicize and turn everything English. And it's had devastating consequences on the cultures of South Africa, as has come to the fore in my conversations with a lot of people from other cultures in my culture series on this channel, which will be continuing this year. So stay tuned for that. The ANC have pretty much gone full imperial and are doing Lord Milner proud, and Lord Somerset as well. They should have gone for the former option if it hasn't become clear from my side or from my snarky tone. As an Afrikaans person, I don't want other languages to die out. I want the other languages around me also to thrive. But the global powers that be don't want languages to thrive. They want an anglicized world, or a world with at least just a handful of languages. Because in their theory, what's standing between them and utopia, one of the big things is just these pesky cleavages of culture, religion, and language. Can't really get past that. Those are really bugging them. That's why they attack them at all on war opportunities. And this is another thing. In South Africa, specifically as an example, Afrikaans and Afrikaner culture are definitely in the crosshairs of the ANC, and one of their major focuses in regards to just destroying the culture or undermining the culture. And you can see that in the removing of heritage, removing of language from schools, pretty much just trying to put obstacles in the way of Afrikaans at every turn. But they're also doing it to other cultures and languages as well. But the other cultures are pretty much in South Africa are pretty much being destroyed by urbanization, where in the rural parts of South Africa, a lot of the South African cultures are still going on well, and their cultural values and history, oral history specifically, are still being preserved. But in the urban centers, that's dashed, because you get people from all over, immigrants, every black culture, every white culture, everything. You just throw them into an urban hellscape, and they turn into metropolitan drones. It's just that's the way the current moves. I saw a question here. Treasure asks, last question, do you think EWC will finally pass in 2021? I don't know. We haven't heard a lot from EWC in 2020. But this year it will definitely be back on the agenda, but I can't tell you whether it will become a concrete reality this year. We'll have to see, not if AfriForum stands in the way. Let's see. Oh. Brendan says, ek soek 'n bier. Ek ook, Brendan. Ek ook. All the smokers that are listening are probably very, very chuffed that Papa Cyril didn't ban cigarettes again. So you guys can smoke away at your pleasure. Uketso says, Panyaza Lesufi is especially talented at voicing against Afrikaans. It is a new obsession of him. Yes, that's a very good example. But like I said, there's a major focus from these types of anti-culture people on Afrikaans, and the ANC specifically on Afrikaans. But there's also an attack, a little more subtle attack on the other cultures in South Africa as well. Pretty much the utopia can only be achieved when everyone is a monoculture and speaks the Queen's English. And that's the mission, it seems, at the long term, from what I can gather. Let's see. We've got about 10 minutes left, so keep the chats coming. Sideliner Opinion says he is sure EWC will happen this year. We're gonna have to see. Indo says lucky on the Siggies. Groen Hondkat says EWC is going global. That it is. You can already see American politicians were talking about stolen land. So again, Americans, if you're listening, luister nou mooi. Listen carefully. You can learn a lot from South Africa if you want a glimpse into the future. Not precisely, we're not going to be a mirror, but look at some of our policies. Look at what our government's doing. Look at what these social kleptocrat fat cats are doing. And you can have a nice little crystal ball vision of what could happen if you elect these types of politicians. Chris Wyatt says, EWC violates AGOA and requirements between the USA and RSA. Time to impose standard tariffs on South African exports. Well, that's going to be the other interesting thing. If EWC is instated, we're going to have to see what the reaction from a Biden administration is going to be towards that. And we can talk about that. I want to talk to you about that, Chris. So when you're on the channel, we're definitely going to be talking about that. The Fredo Watcher says, I have to say goodbye for the night. Take care, conscious Caracal and all. Now more than ever, let's keep each other in our prayers. Definitely. God bless you, the Fredo Watcher. Have a very nice day. Let's see what else we got. So, something I also wanted to bring up was when we were talking about the Twitter purge, social media purge that we saw. Scott Tungay, one of the previous guests on this channel, awesome chap, made a tweet where he said this might be the return of the old world, where we see people coming together in bars again, well, not during lockdown, of course, but after lockdown, hopefully. Getting together again in a social setting and in each other's presence and talking about ideas. And I kind of agreed with him to a large extent, because you can ban the social media accounts, but you can't really destroy the ideas. They're going to find an outlet somewhere. The genie's been let out of the bottle. So hopefully we get a lot more in-person conversations happening. I mean, that can still change the world. Don't think that the social media paradigm is the be-all and end-all. Something else that I learned in 2020 was when you look at the lockdowns and how hysterical people are about the disease, about COVID-19, secular societies are haunted by the fear of death. That's what I learned in 2020. Secularized or secularizing societies are terrified of death. And if you even mention the Grim Reaper, they will beg you for any type of government intervention to keep them safe from the horrible Reaper. Just something I noticed in 2020. Mass Creation Broadcasts says, good day, Ernst. Good day, MCB. B. Bertelson says, I'm a conservative from California. Well, that's probably like being a colored in Johannesburg or in Pretoria. Chris says, spot on, you can silence the tech, but not the thoughts or the movement. Exactly. So focus in 2021 on building those connections again. Go socialize with some people and go have a beer. JL says, Ernst, wanneer drink ons 'n bier? Sodra jy my nooi, JL, is jy in Pretoria, dan moet jy my dat weet. Dan maak ons 'n plan. Ek sal enige tyd. Is altyd oop vir 'n bier as Cyril toelaat. As Cyril toelaat. The other thing that I think is also important is I see a lot of demoralized people, a lot of black-pilled people, a lot of nihilistic people in the wake of Trump's defeat. And I just want to remind those people that, and just people being demoralized by what they see happening around them, saying, well, this is the end, it's all over. It's not over, but you're going to have to start thinking differently. Don't cling on to Trump as your savior anymore. He had his chance, but he made major blunders. The question of voter fraud aside. And you're going to have to start thinking about how are you going to secure your community. Start thinking a bit smaller. The biggest lie, or not lie, but one of the worst things that I think you can tell a child, and it's become very popular in the like 1980s onwards, is that children are told when they're very young, you're going to change the world. You need to save the world. You are going to become president one day. I think that's very dangerous and damaging to tell a child, because you're creating this weird messiah complex and this messiah element that he needs to live up to that he just can't. Rather teach your children the right values and to fight for truth and always speak the truth and instill values in them that will make them a good person and make them a valuable carrier of the torch going forward. Then you don't have to tell them that their mission is to save the world. They just need to do what they need to do. They don't have to become president. They just need to be a valuable member of your community and need to carry the values of your community forward. That's what's important. It's smaller than saving the world, but it's very valuable. So I think in 2021, start thinking smaller. Instead of wanting to save South Africa or wanting to save the world, which a lot of people unironically actually say they are trying to do, save your household first. I'm not going to go full Jordan Peterson, clean your room, but make sure your family is functional. Make sure you are instilling good values in your children. Make sure your relationship with your wife or girlfriend or husband or boyfriend is good, that it's healthy. Make sure that you talk to your neighbor. Make sure that you know the name of your neighbor. If you're living in a street and not in an apartment, that would be terrible. But and then this advice would work a lot. But make sure your street's clean. Get together. Your cultural community as well. Make sure you are doing everything you can to help your cultural community. Jou mense, was Cyril says, our people, your people. Willem says, Willem Petzer is here. On Willem. Willem sê gesels bietjie oor WhatsApp. Yeah. My answer there is very short. So Willem wants me to talk about the WhatsApp thing that a lot of people are losing their minds over. He says, hello, I'm Roykat. Hello, I'm Willem. Hello, I'm Peter. My answer to the WhatsApp situation is very simple. You don't have to use WhatsApp. They are very good alternatives, much better alternatives that you should have been started using much longer ago. Telegram is a good example. Signal as well. But Telegram, I would suggest. I'm using Telegram. It's very nice. And I would suggest you get on there. Much better privacy as well. But just a better platform. I mean, WhatsApp's for normies anyway, for plebs. So yeah, my answer to the WhatsApp conundrum is very simple. The alternatives are there. You just have to make the effort to make them work, to go to them. But yeah, if you are worried about privacy, the WhatsApp privacy situation, and you're still using Facebook, like I'm not talking about having a Facebook account. I'm not talking about using Facebook, giving them information that they can use in their advertising. You're pretty much being exposed to exactly the same thing. I just use Facebook as a networking tool so I can keep in touch with people, but I don't scroll my feed. I don't really engage with anything. So, but yeah, that's my take on it. If you're worried about privacy, but every day you still spend like 4 hours on Facebook, you're pretty much still your information is still being used in the exact same way that WhatsApp's saying it's going to use it now. But again, something that a lot of you that are anonymous need to take into account is that in the modern incarnation of the internet, anonymity is a myth. So if they want to find out who you are, they will find out who you are. So just keep that in mind. And also don't take it too seriously in that regard. Like, just know. If you become a genuine person of interest, they can find out who you are in a heartbeat. So act accordingly. Don't go live in a hut in the middle of the wilderness, but just know that your little free VPN isn't going to do a lot. Willem says, ek wil jou follow op Telegram. I don't know if jy ek weet jy of jy met my praat of anders nie. If you're talking to me, Willem, I don't have a Telegram channel, but I will be setting one up. So then you can follow that. WhatsApp's for normies, dude. All right. It's 8 o'clock. I'm going to start winding down the conversation. I have other responsibilities that I need to get to. And yeah, let me just get this out of the way. Cool. So my final thoughts there is keep an eye on this channel. I will be having a lot more interesting conversations, a lot more of just these solo conversations where I just interact with the chat and see what's going on. You guys have been an excellent live chat. Sometimes I just want to give you guys the microphone. You guys are really funny. Philip Peter said, I'm talking to you, Karako, and you get a channel. I will. Just need to get the time. So yeah, I will be continuing my culture series this year as well. Thank you very much to everyone that's been sharing that series and been liking there, tuning in. It's been a massive success. I'm very chuffed with it. And I will be continuing and talking to other cultures in South Africa. So you can actually, if you're a foreigner specifically, get a better grasp of what's going on in South Africa. Because if you don't look at South Africa through the cultural lens, South African politics is not going to make sense to you. You're not going to be able to fathom why this one black group doesn't like the other black group, or this one white group can't really cooperate with this other white group. It's not going to make sense to you. But as soon as you look through the lens of culture, it's going to make a lot of sense. Cheers, Willem. Lekker aand. Sien jou weer. Paula says, thanks, CC. Everyone else, thank you very much, Paula, dat jy geskakel het. Hardy Dave says, lekker bly almal. All right, in work, if you guys like this type of cup, it says greetings from the dark continent. There's my logo on it. I also have hoodies. You can go check out. There's a link in the description for that type of merch. There's also buffs that are much better than a mask. Everything that I earned there through that merch, it's pretty much just because I like the idea. I really don't just want to make money out of it. It's more of the money that I do make from it, I'm going to use for my channel. I'm going to upgrade my microphone, a lot of some sound stuff that I need to invest in, but I don't have the money for it at the moment. But yeah, it's mostly just for the cool factor. I like the fact that I can have a mug that I can send people. I've sent some free mugs to people as well, some long-time subscribers. But yeah. So go check out that link if that sounds cool to you. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. You've been an excellent audience. And check me on Sunday when I'm talking to Oren McIntyre about the post-Trump world and post-liberalism. That's going to be very interesting. So tune in. That's going to be at 6 o'clock on Sunday this weekend. Sharon says, Nag almal. Doc Meyer says, ons praat waar ons kry net een kans op die aarde. Ja. Nee. Kom ons kyk. Jack Donner says, cheers. Okay, just says, I'll be ordering the mug. Sharp. All right. Nag almal, lekker slaap, lekker aand, hoop julle het 'n lekker week, and I'll check you again on the next episode, which will be Sunday at 6. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. God bless.